Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about Biden and Iran and a whole bunch of questions that have come in about a deal to get some people back. And we're going to go through it and we're going to talk about why it is occurring the way it is. The questions, they're all pretty similar because the coverage has been it's mainly been based off of quotes from people who maybe don't have a clear picture as to what's happening. The questions are, why is Biden giving Iran $1 billion for each prisoner to get them back? Why are we spending this money? It could be better spent in the United States. I feel bad for these 5 people, but that $6 billion could go a long way in the United States. Stuff like this. Why is this happening? Because you have a whole bunch of Republicans out there saying that the Biden administration is paying Iran $6 billion to get U.S. people back that are prisoner there. Okay, and then the one that I found the most interesting was a question that said, is it good foreign policy to give more than $1 billion to get a prisoner back? And the answer to that is no. It is absolutely not good foreign policy to do that. Good thing is, that's not what's happening. That's not even close to what's happening. The United States is paying precisely nothing. Not a dime. So, this is what's actually occurring. There is roughly $6 billion. Most of it is in South Korean accounts. It's Iran's money. It's frozen due to sanctions. The United States is going to provide a waiver so South Korea can transfer that money not to Iran, but to Qatar for most Americans. It will go to financial institutions there. The government there will oversee its dispersal for humanitarian aid and only humanitarian aid to be delivered to Iran. So what's actually happening? The United States is providing humanitarian aid to Iran using Iran's money. That's what's occurring. That was the mark to get this moving. As far as the actual prisoner exchange, it's 1 for 1. 5 Iranians, 5 Americans. That's what's happening. So, why is it being presented the way that it is? Because a whole bunch of people who last week didn't understand a recommendation for beverage consumption, they suddenly really understand foreign policy. It is important to take this bit of information and plug it into the overall picture. What is happening in the United States when it comes to its foreign policy goals for the Middle East? The goal is to create a multipolar, regionally stable Middle East. The goal is to allow the Middle East to become stable through the Middle East, allowing 3 major powers there, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, to kind of keep everything in balance. That is a much better plan than the last 50 years of military intervention. Just saying. That's the goal. Bringing Iran out, well, that's part of that. China is actually doing most of the heavy lifting on this because this is one of those things that the international community as a whole, to include the United States and China, they're not working together on this, but they're working in the same direction because it's good for the entire planet. That's what's happening. Is that a good foreign policy move? Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to remind everybody, Biden's foreign policy team is top-notch. It's really good. A commentator or a politician who has precisely 0 experience with foreign policy is not going to poke a hole in what they're planning. This costs the United States absolutely nothing, except for the ink to sign the waiver to allow that money to be transferred. Iran isn't getting the cash. It's going to Qatar. And then they're going to handle it from there. So, despite what you might have heard on Fox, despite what you might have heard on other networks that are using sound bites of politicians talking about how the U.S. gave or paid Iran, none of that happened. It didn't cost the United States a dime. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.